Is there anything more impressive than a handmade birthday cake topper? Today, I'm going to show you how to make this elegant glitter arch happy birthday cake topper and a matching card to go right along with it. And because this design is not personalized, it works for any birthday. Plus, I'm sharing the SVG file for free, so you can make one too. Stick around. Hey everyone, it's Colorado Lean. Welcome back to the craft room. Before we jump into our project, let's talk about what we're going to be using today, starting with the Holiday Glitz Glitter paper pad from Recollections. For the text, I'm going to be using Cricut Everyday Iron-On in Royal. I have a piece of 110-pound white Recollections cardstock for my card base, as well as for the text mat for the cake topper and the matching card. And also for the cake topper, I'm going to be using 2 everyday flexible straws from Walmart. So let's jump right into Cricut Design Space and start working with our SVG. Now that we're in Cricut Design Space, let's go ahead and choose Blank Canvas. And then on the left-hand side, let's choose Upload and Upload Image. From here, you can either drag and drop your file in, or you can browse. So I will choose my file and click Open and Continue. From this window, you can change your file name, you can add tags, or add it to a collection, or just click Upload. Now, if Cricut offers you some suggestions, go ahead and close this menu with this arrow here. And now let's go ahead and ungroup our file. So I have given you 2 files. The smaller one is for the birthday card. If you're not going to be making a birthday card, then you can come over to the Layers panel and click on this little eyeball, and that will hide it. I am going to be making one today, so we'll leave that there. And then we'll come over to the cake topper and ungroup. Now you'll see that I have the text, I have the mat for the text, and I have 2 base panels. Now the reason I'm giving you 2 is if you're going to be using a specialty paper like glitter cardstock or a holographic cardstock that is only decorated on one side, if you want to cover the back of your cake topper so it looks more finished, then go ahead and take one of these backers, highlight it, and choose Flip and Flip Horizontal. And now this way it will cut the reverse side of it so that when you turn it over so that your glitter or holographic side is to the back, then it will line up perfectly with your front panel. So let's go ahead and save our project. I am going to save this as cake topper. And then we'll come over and click Make. I will be cutting on a 12 by 12 mat today. Now there isn't much I need to do on this screen other than take note of how big of a piece of cardstock I need. So for my glitter cardstock, I will cut a piece that is 8 inches tall by 12 inches wide. For my mats, I will cut a piece that is 3 inches tall by 11 inches wide. And then for my text, because I am using heat transfer vinyl today, I will cut a piece that is 3 inches tall, but I also am going to come over to Mirror and toggle that on. All right, I'm going to come back up to my first mat, and then I am going to click Continue, and I will connect my Cricut Explorer Air 2. For the base of my cake topper, I'm going to be using Recollections glitter cardstock. So I will choose Browse All Materials. And then our second option here is different types of cardstock. So I will choose Glitter and then Done. I am going to set this to more pressure. I used that yesterday when I made my sample, and it worked really well. So now I am going to load up my mat and cut this with the fine point blade. For the mat layer for my text, I'm going to come up here and change my material to 100-pound heavy cardstock. And finally, for layer 3, I will come up to Materials and choose Everyday Iron-On. I want to double check that mirror is turned on and it is set for the default pressure. And now I will run that through my Cricut with the fine point blade, and I will meet you back at the craft desk. Now that we have all of our pieces cut, let's talk a little bit about my heat transfer vinyl. Now, when I work with any type of vinyl, permanent or heat transfer, I always draw a box around it in Design Space and then attach the box to the text. And I do that for 2 reasons. Number 1, it helps me save on waste for my vinyl. And number 2, if I have 2 boxes that need to be cut from the same material, then there is plenty of space between the 2, even if I let Design Space choose where to put it on the mat. Now, I don't know why, but I did not do that for this project. And I know this is going to be a little hard to see, so I'm going to insert a picture here to show just how close these 2 were cut next to each other. So after I weed this out, I'm going to have to be very, very careful when I cut these apart. I am going to take a pair of scissors and trim this extra piece of vinyl off, because I can definitely save this for another project. Now I'm going to use my favorite pin pen weeding tool, and I am going to weed out my vinyl. All right, I am back, and I have finished weeding out my project. Now it's always a good idea to turn it over so that you can read it the correct way. And then this helps you see that you have taken out everything that needs to be taken out. Okay, now I need to cut this apart as carefully as possible. Now, I do wish I would have put that weeding box around my text, because I like to have more of the backing especially when I'm doing heat transfer vinyl. But it is what it is at this point. All right, let's go ahead and apply our text to the mat. And to do this, I'm going to bring in my Cricut mini press, and I'm going to turn this on to the first heat setting. And I also have my Cricut Easy Press mat. So while that is heating up, let's go ahead and line up our heat transfer vinyl. Now, if I had that extra bit of the backing paper over here, I would be a lot happier. All right, our Cricut mini press is ready. And we're going to press this onto the cardstock for 25 seconds. And now I'm just going to set this aside to cool. And I will bring in the one for my matching card. What I really love about working with heat transfer vinyl is if you don't get it lined up the first time, it is so much more forgiving. All right, our first die cut is cool. So I'm going to start peeling it back. But I am going to be very careful just to be on the safe side. All right. And there is the first one. This one is now cool. I did get this one over just a little bit too far to the right, but I am okay with that. All right, the next step in the process is to glue our text onto our glitter background. And as always, I'm going to be using Barely Art Precision Craft Glue. Now you want to use enough glue that it will stick to the glitter cardstock. However, the Recollections glitter is very smooth. And so far in all the projects I've used with it, I have not had any problem with something sticking to it. All right, and then I'm just going to line this up. And then I'm going to set it off to the side with a stamp block on it, just for a little extra pressure, while I glue this one down. Now, if you wanted to put these down with pop dots, that would look beautiful as well. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be using 2 everyday flexible straws from Walmart for my cake topper picks. And because my heat transfer vinyl is blue, I'm going to use 2 blue straws. I'm going to cut these off right underneath the bendy part. And to make them a little easier to attach to the back of our cake topper, I'm just going to flatten these out a little bit. I am going to start just with my hands, and then I will bring in my bone folder. And I'm probably just going to go down about 2 inches. Okay, our glue should be dry now. So I'm going to bring in my cake topper. And if I was using like a wooden skewer, then I would definitely get out my hot glue gun. But today I'm going to be using 5/8 inch Scor-tape. And I am going to take a length of this. And I'm going to put one of the skewers here. And then one here on this side. And now with the flatter side, I'm just going to set that onto the score tape. And then press that down. And for my second one, I want to line up the end of this straw so that I can get them about the same height. Okay. And with that 5/8 inch score tape, that's about how wide my straw is when I flatten it. So I am able to get this a lot flatter than if I had a wooden skewer on there. So now I'm going to take another piece and place it over the top of the straw. And now I'm going to put plenty of Barely Art glue on top of my tape. And this will give me plenty of time to make my adjustments. And then I'm also going to add glue over here. Now I'm not going to put glue on these top parts just yet. That is a little bit finicky. So now you can see why we flipped that second piece. So it should line up relatively perfectly. Okay, and now I can come in and add some Barely Art glue. Now I know this isn't going to line up perfectly for me, and I'm okay with that. So I'm just going to separate my layers here. And add in a line of glue. And then I can make my adjustments as I go. Now I am adding glue to this little part here under the Y, but I am not going to glue the center of this closed. I'm going to leave that part open. And I'm always going to press from the back to the front, and then that should leave the front of the cake topper relatively flat. And there is our finished cake topper. Now my straws are not as straight as I think they should be, but that's okay. You can always adjust that when you put it in the cake. But I just think that is so pretty. For my card base, I am using a 110-pound Recollections card. It is 8.5 inches wide, 5.5 inches long, and scored down the middle at 5.5. No, it's scored down the middle at 4.25. So 8.5, 5.5, 4.25. All right, I jumped off real quick because I wondered if I needed a mat under here. So I don't have a blue cardstock that matches my HTV. So I thought, well, maybe a black mat. And while it's pretty, I just thought, maybe not. And then I asked my husband, and he said no mat. So we're going to go with no mat. And all we need to do here is glue it on. So again, I'm using the Barely Art glue. If you wanted, you could pop this up on foam tape. And then now we just need to center this on our card. And there is your matching birthday card. And that's our finished birthday cake topper and matching card. I absolutely love how this turned out with the silver glitter cardstock and the royal blue HTV. I can just imagine how pretty it's going to look on a birthday cake with the glow from the candles. If you'd like to make one yourself, you can download the free SVG using the link in the video description or over on the corresponding blog post. I've included everything you need to recreate both the cake topper and the matching card. Now, one thing I especially like about the card is that there's plenty of room at the bottom to personalize it with a name, making it extra special for the birthday recipient. The sentiment can be cut from cardstock, permanent vinyl, or heat transfer vinyl like I use today. If you decide to use HTV, just remember to add the name to the card base before applying the glitter cardstock so you don't accidentally melt it with the heat. Now I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever made a cake topper before? If you have, what did you use for the pick or support? Bamboo skewers, acrylic sticks, paper straws, or was it something completely different? Share your favorite method down in the comments. I always enjoy seeing your ideas and learning new tips from this amazing community. Thank you so much for spending some creative time with me today. If you enjoyed this project, I'd love it if you gave the video a thumbs up. And if you're new here, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next tutorial. I'll see you soon.